guys. So I'm so glad to be here with everyone. Um, about myself, I'm Elisha. I do a lot of work in the aspect of sport analytics, right? So I've been even before the academic class. So I've been doing quite a number of things around sports, right? And I'm so glad that starting rec labs is more or less like getting us a step further into actualizing everything that we've ever craved to do or to build, right? So, of course, we're still going to dive a little bit deep into RectSports, the details and all, right? So, I'm just so excited about this session, and I'm sure we're all going to learn one or two things. And I want this to be very, very interactive. That's the reason why it's more or less like, at least those of us within the zone can at least try to interact very well, ask questions, and make this event much more fun than we could ever think of. Yeah, thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Elisha. AY, do you want to go next? Just introduce yourself, who you are, what you do at Rec Labs.
Okay. Good evening. Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can. Yeah, you.
All right. My name is Ayomide, and I'm the head of research at Rec Labs. I'm in charge of everything AI research, ranging from computer vision down to natural language processing. Basically, how computers see down to how computers talk. Then my previous experience has been in disease detection AI company, where we build solutions that could help farmers identify disease very fast. So I've been in the AI space for a bit over 4 years now, and I've worked across board most of the applications in AI. Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Thank you for that. Okay, so just for the sake of the other questions I'll be asking, please be a little bit audible because we're recording this. Thank you. Elisha, same goes to you. So now I'll be asking, I want to hear from Elisha. What are we doing at Rec Labs exactly? What's Rec Labs all about? I know I gave a brief introduction, but we just want to hear from you. What are we building at Rec Labs?
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Perfect.
All right, so basically what we are building at Rec Labs, we've noticed that there's a little bit of gap in the AI space, right? When it comes to converting your ideas or building your solutions, right, with respect to AI. So we noticed that a lot of companies have this research problem, and sometimes it takes them a lot of time to actually convert their research ideas into products, right? So when we started out Rec Labs, we started out as a consulting firm. So we started solving some of these problems for companies, right? We started by solving some problems around temporal cycle consistency, solving some problems around music, solving some problems around health, solving some problems around sports. Then we did quite a number of other things, action modeling, action recognition. So during the verge of doing all these things, for almost a year, right, that was basically all we're doing. And during all those processes of engaging in all those AI research and the likes, it took us quite a number, but due to the fact that, thanks to my head of research, it was very, very seamless. It was very easy for us to get a lot of research works done and then push them out into production and, for these companies. But we noticed the bottleneck, right? That, some of these companies were spending so much time in this research process. Some of them find it very hard to do the research. Some of them find it very hard to actually convert the idea into products, right? So we decided, okay, why don't we just build a platform that helps companies or organizations to actually convert their ideas or their AI research hypothesis into a product that they can test very fast. And that's, we noticed this bottleneck because in software engineering, software engineering is quite straightforward. For you to quickly test out your hypothesis, you design the way the product is going to look like. You get a front end and a back end person, and then you connect it all up, and then you have an MVP. But in AI, it's a little bit much more difficult because AI is not just about all of that. You have to start thinking of front end, back end. Then you have to be thinking of AI research. Then you have to be thinking of AI engineering. So we decided that, okay, why don't you just build custom systems that is kind of synonymous to a lot of something that works for almost all organizations, right? So we built those pre-built models and then we injected them. And that was what led us into building Rectvision, a platform that helps businesses build their own AI or create their own AI without having to worry about the process, without having to worry about the complexity, without having to worry about the bottlenecks, right? So these were majorly the problems we were able to solve, and that was how far we've come. Then it got to a point that, okay, we were like, oh, since we've been doing some things around sports even before we started RectLabs, we were like, okay, we want to be able to do or come up with a case study or do some sort of proof of concept, right, on how people can actually leverage on the usage of AI and build these things very, very fast. So we decided, okay, let's take sport as a niche, right? So that was what led us to RectSports. So eventually, as a result of our experimentations, the models we came up with, the action modeling, all the models we came up with to build in RectSports, we all built all those things in Rectvision, right? And we were able to put all these things together to finally build what we currently have right now in RectSports. So that's basically the way RectLab started, and I hope yeah. So that's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for that. I mean, it just shows what we do at RectLabs. There's a lot of research that goes into what we do. We don't just come up, we undertake a lot of research. Thank you so much for that, Elisha. So my next question will be, I know that RectLabs has made a lot of products, a lot of solutions. You just mentioned some of them. Do you want to tell us about them before we go into what we're talking about with sports analytics and AI? Just give us a brief summary of what products we have at RectLabs, what they do, and all of that.
All right, so I think I already mentioned one, right?
Yeah.
For now, there's a lot that we can't say right now with respect to products that we're building, though some are still kind of in the incubation process and we are still doing some validations, right? Basically, I can only make mention of Rectvision and RectSports, right? And then a couple of another called Cinex. I think that's all we can make reference to right now. These are the products we are building presently at RectLabs. So Rectvision, like I said, it's a platform that helps businesses and individuals that are interested in building their own AI to build their own AI in a seamless fashion without having to. It's a no-code platform. It's a low-code. For engineers, it's a low-code. There's the low-code part whereby you leverage on the usage of our SDKs, and then it's a no-code for businesses that might not have the technical expertise, might not have the strength to actually build an AI and the likes. So you don't have to spend so much on the likes. So that's why we went to build Rectvision. So RectSports is a platform that we built from Rectvision, right? It started as a case study, but it ended up becoming a product that a lot of sporting organizations are requesting for, and they are also in need of, right? So RectSport basically helps coaches, it helps sport organizations to ace their games, right? So RectSport covers all forms of sports. But basically, we've started so far with basketball and football. And so far, so good. We've been able to at least achieve some level of milestones and demos with respect to football analytics and basketball analytics, right? We are hoping that we're going to be expanding our analytics to much more complex aspect of analytics, like in the aspect of hurdles, in the aspect of race, in the aspect, we believe that AI can actually help enhance, right, athletes, right, or players, right. So this platform RectSport kinds of connects the coaches and the players and the sport organizations to actually make data-driven decisions based on the stats that we are generating, right. thereby saving the coach a lot of time of having to watch the game and having to figure out this, by just plugging in the live stream into our system or plugging in the videos or uploading the video on our platform, just as fast as you can. And the stats is more or less like so simple to understand and straight to the point, giving you all the timestamps, and everything that you have to watch, specifying who did what and who did which, right? A lot of things, everything is just so documented within the stats, right? Or is documented within, yeah, of course, within the stats, in order to give clarity or help the coach better make decisions or come up with strategies, right? And then we have this kind of mini map that gives them, that generates more or less like a better eye view of what is actually happening on the field, be it basketball or football. And then based on what we are, based on the fact that we're leveraging on the usage of AI to calculate all these things or to conceptualize these things, we were able to extend this AI, right, to helping us forecast some decisions, right? So whereby a coach can basically know, oh, I'm going to be playing against, okay, maybe, let's say Man U right now is going to be playing against Chelsea, right? Man U can basically say, okay, this has been the strategy of Chelsea, right? Okay, what are the kind of players I would need in order to be able to overcome the strategy of Chelsea? Some of all these things are kind of difficult to, just unless, with a lot of experience, right? But this platform, RectSports, makes it very, very easy for coaches to make that informed decision, right? So by just looking at the stats of the players, and then due to some of the forecasts that we're also generating, and your chances of winning with your opposing team, right? You are able to make that decision of the kind of players that needs to be on your team, right? Or your first 11 and the people that need to be on the bench, right? And then it can also help you make some forecast on your most likely point of scoring against the opponent, right? So this is the reason why we want to build, right? Or this is the reason why we are still building, or we are building RectSports, right? So that it can help coaches better make decisions, and it can also help players better perform as, sport athletes. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much for that comprehensive, description. All right, over to you, AY. I want to know, with what Elisha said about, helping coaches, helping players. Now, for coaches that describe or that, formulate training programs, patterns, and all of that, would you say that AI will replace the coach in, say, in the next decade?
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's a good question. So the thing about AI as it stands right now is that they are very, very good at pattern matching, right? And but they don't have the brain that we humans have. And that's because when you look at what a typical coach or a person does, we think in terms of counterfactuals. Counterfactuals in the sense that what if? What happens if I take this step? They are imagined scenarios, and these are actually things that AI is really, really bad at, right? And also humans think in terms of causality, right? If A, then B. These are all aspects that AI is really, really bad at. But what can AI do for coaches? Well, it can assist, right, in chunking through millions and millions of hours of videos and bringing out patterns that really, really matter to the coach at that particular moment. Then looking at the stats, the coach can then make an informed decision. But replacing the coach entirely is to replace human intuition and ability to actually imagine. And for us to actually do that, then we have to tend towards the realm of artificial general intelligence, which it's supposedly this mighty brain that can actually think like humans do. So that's the reason why even when you look at one of the all-star application of AI, which is self-driving cars, right? Self-driving cars are good so far the road you are driving them on doesn't actually deviate from what they've seen before. So also is this system we are trying to build. So the idea is that, okay, you have a coach that can watch millions of hours, right? And you really want to move through that data as fast as possible to understand what is going on so that you can make an informed decision. And that is exactly when AI comes in. But when it comes to imagined scenarios, then definitely we are not there yet, right? Even our best of generative models are not there yet. So it's still going to, are we going to see AI replacing human coaches? Well, for me, for now, I don't think so. Will anything happen around that space? Well, that's what makes it excited. But as it stands right now, we don't have systems that can actually handle that.
Awesome. Because some coaches might be like, I think AI is going to take my job, and it might not want them, it might make them close to the possibilities of AI. But thank you for that response, really. Thank you. So another question along that line to you, AY. Apart from helping coaches and then also helping players, know their patterns and all of that, are there other applications of AI in sports, the sports industry? Do you want to tell us of other use cases and applications?
I think the most important use case is probably around player tracking, and also when you have multiple cameras, right? How to reconcile the views from those multiple cameras. So like Elisha said about a work we did around what is called temporal cycle consistency, which is basically trying to find what is called correspondence in videos. Correspondence are actually points in videos that are sort of invariant to movement. So a good example can be a background or a point of reference, basically. So there are things being done around that space where you are trying to you have people looking at a football match from several angles, and you're trying to reconcile it into a single video that makes sense. So there are work around that. So beyond just generating stats, camera calibration, trying to understand things from separate angles are some of the problems that are being solved by AI, by applying AI to sports. Also, maybe like I said the other time, that imagined scenarios is right up the alley of generative modeling, where you can generate a 3D understanding of what if the player actually moved this way, what would have happened. So there are things people are doing around that, but it's still very, very tricky at the moment. So most of what we are doing at Rect Labs, I would say, are things that are possible at the moment. Are we going to push the boundaries? Definitely, we are going to push the boundaries. But that's where we are right now at Sport Analytics.
All right, thank you for that. So picking up from what AY said, Elisha, where you being the CEO and having a vision for Rec Labs, where is RectSports going to be, say, in the next decade? Where do we see? Yes, there are diverse possibilities of AI, in the sports industry, diverse things that can be done. But for Rec Labs, where do we see, or what's the possibility for RectSports in the next, say, decade, 10 years?
Yeah, so that's a very interesting question, right? So basically, we are still exploring, we are still making our findings, we are still doing a lot of this and that, right? So one of the things I hope that we can fully achieve in the next 10 years, right, is to be at the forefront of AI analytics when it comes to sports, right, in Africa. I want to, I'm looking at, or I'm seeing, right, RectSports being the first or one of the foremost AI analytics platform for all sorts of sports within Africa, right? And that's the reason why we're starting with football. And then we're starting with football and basketball, right? We've done a little bit of tennis, but not so much of tennis, right? But we are actually looking at just expanding, from all that we've just mentioned to some more aspect of interesting sports like baseballs, right, and the likes. You understand, racing and some other forms of sports, right? So that's where I see us. That's what I see us becoming in less than 10 years from now.
All right. So thank you so much for that. So for our listeners, Elisha was saying something about currently we have we're going towards. I mean, we have solutions in sports like basketball, and we have plans to move further to racing. I think that of racing is going to be quite interesting, something I want to watch or be a part of. Right. So I will leave room for questions. So if you have questions for our speakers, let's just drop them in the chat box. Right. Let's just drop them in the chat box. Right. So my last question for now, which is not the least, you mentioned something about how we built RectSports from Rectvision. So, and I understand that Rectvision is like, the big sister, and then RectSports is, what we brought out of Rectvision. Do you want to expand, do you want to expand on that? Do you want to build on that, Elisha? I think Elisha should go in for that. Do you want to expand on that, on how we, built something solid, which is RectSports from, Rectvision, which is one of our platforms too. Do you want to just expand on that a bit while we wait for questions from our audience?
All right, so I can't but overemphasize that this RectSports stuff was more or less like a pure experimentation. It wasn't like, this sport analysis stuff was pure experimentation. It wasn't like we actually thought it was going to lead to what it's, what we currently have right now. And I really want to make mention of one of our, engineers, right, that made this really, really possible for us, because he was interning with us, and then I just had to give him like, okay, we are trying to do something at Rectvision. Okay, I was coming up with some ideas. Okay, why don't you just try this thing out on RectSport or on sports? Then, as a result of him learning, and I told him, okay, do this, try this, do this, try this, right? That's why so many times I say, okay, this guy, he was actually a very, very good intern who started with us. I wanted to learn AI, and then I just had to push him to learning and experimenting with sports. And then as a result of the experimentations, we were doing quite a lot of research with him. Of course, myself, him, and AY, right? We did quite a number of research, and then from the research and experimentations that we came up with, we were trying to come up with more proposition on how do we do this, how do we do that. So it all started by, okay, people want to be able to train models, right? People want to be able to, why don't we just come up with something that people are familiar with? Everybody loves, or everybody has a flair for, sports like football. Everybody wants to watch football. Everybody wants to know the next move of Messi, or know the next move of C. Ronaldo. That was how everything started, right, in Rec Labs. And I was like, okay, we've been able to learn, we know some fundamental things in computer vision. Why don't we just try, do some trackings, right? Then we just ran basic trackings, basic YOLO. And then from there, we're like, okay, this is making sense. This is going to make a lot of sense if we can do this. And so we started seeing some business inside, and we started doing, okay, why not let's try improve this? Why not let's try tweak this in the model? Why not let's try add this? Or why not let's try do some, approach it in a different way, or do some extraordinary sort of tracking. Oh, there's occlusion here. Oh, there's this here. Okay, why don't you just try and separate this from this, and let's see what we get. It was just a lot of mathematical, exploration, right? So it went from tracking to detection of this, to face detection, to player identification, player recognition, to action estimations, right? So these were things that we said we wanted to build in Rectvision, right? We want people to be able to build custom action recognition. We wanted people to be able to build custom face recognition models. We wanted people to be able to build OCR systems, right? So we were able to look at, all these things that we're trying to build. These are things that is explorable in sports, right? You want to be able to recognize what's the jersey number of this player, what's the what color is this player wearing, right? These are typical AIs that we are trying to, that people want to explore it. So we saw that, okay, sports covers almost everything, right? So all those little models were things that we started building, We built them into models in Rectvision. And then when we saw that we were able to build them and we are getting very, very reasonable results, then we had to put all of them together to actually generate what we currently have as RectSports. And then when we saw that it was making a lot of sense, we decided to, share it with a couple of people, and, we shared it with a couple of coaches and players, and it was so much fun for them, right? And it made a lot of sense. And from there, research became a product that people wanted, right? And that's why we are pressing forward further, right, to making sure that RectSports is not just where it currently is, it's in front of the users. Yeah, so that's all I can say for now.
All right. All right. Thank you so much for that, Elisha. So, I mean, for our listeners, and what I learned is that with Rectvision, which is like a very awesome and amazing platform, we can build stuff, right? Your ideas should not be wasted. Whatever idea you have, that involves computer vision, you should try it out. I mean, trying it out, you could actually build something awesome, like we built, RectSports. I'm trying to see if there are questions here. So if there are questions, please just write them. Yeah, and if you're learning anything, you could just tweet about it and just say, oh, you can tag Red Labs, tag our speakers, and then let everybody know what you're learning about, AI in sports. All right. So I have one more question. Just one more question that will be for AY. AY, so I know there's a thing with, like Elisha said, there's a thing with sports. People are, really crazy about sports. And there's an application of sports analytics, or, analytics in betting, sport betting. So what do you have to say about that? I know there's an application of that. Yeah, so I just want to hear from you while we wait if there are other questions. That'll be our last question here, but just want to hear about that.
Okay, so from the way betting works, especially for sports, there's usually the virtual game and the real game. The thing about the virtual games is that they are mostly set up by the computer itself and extremely randomized. So someone who bets on virtual games a lot might be able to catch a glimpse of pattern as time goes on. But when it comes to real games, where RectSports can actually play a big role is in predicting, because one thing you have to understand about artificial intelligence is that you are trying to learn from historical data to be able to predict the future, right? So to say, and I use the word future loosely. So, which means that if you can look at the performance of a player over specific games or games that are related to the particular game you want to bet on, then you can actually predict what the player might do in the next game. If you evaluate that for the 11 players you have, then what happens is that you can better evaluate the team itself. So basically the idea is actually being able to check through the historical data or the analytics of a specific team against another team and use that to actually predict what the team would actually play. So it allows you make a more, it doesn't exactly remove the uncertainty, but it reduces the uncertainty betting. So like the correlation, or those are some of the things you could actually relate to.
All right, thank you so much for that, for shedding light on that. So are there other questions? Other people with questions? I can't see any. Right. Okay. So in the absence of any other questions, Elisha, do you have any last word for us? What you just want us to hear, plans about Rect Labs, things, how you want people to engage and all of that. Just your last words.
Yeah, so plans for export, right?
Yes, boss.
Okay, so of course, very soon we are going to be launching our app to the world, right? And definitely we are going to be doing a lot of connections between players and coaches And then of course we are going to be having the part for betting fans, for for people that are interested in betting or experimenting what AI can actually do. So one of the things we want to be able to do is very soon we want to start exploring live games, right? We know that there's a season is coming very soon now, right? And we want people to be able to test and see what RectSports is able to do regarding most of the games that will be played within that season, right? And then make some level of forecast. So that's the plan. That's the plan, and I believe it's going to be so much fun. Thank you.
Right. What about AI? Any last words from you?
Yeah, I think we're just at the beginning of what we can actually do with AI in sports, especially when it comes to trying to make predictions about the future, which basically means you can adequately remove the uncertainty that is inherent in actually predicting things about your team, and also dealing with intuitive or imaginative situations with sport analytics. So I believe as AI matures and with RecSport at the very forefront of AI analytics in sports in Africa, I believe as we see the rise in AI, definitely we would see the rise in RecSport also, and in methods and ways, approaches we could use to actually solve problems better. So it's a bet we are taking in the long term that as Africa breaks forth into the sports space, then RecSports will be there to provide the necessary analytics for the teams and the players in Africa, and also by extension all across the world.
All right, thank you so much for that. Thank you so much, our speakers, Elijah and Ayomide. Thank you for your time. And thank you everyone too for being a part of today's session. This series is actually a series we're going to have fortnightly. That means every 2 weeks. So today we've had a series about AI in sports. The next time we'll have, amazing series like AI in health, AI in the fintech space, and very amazing series. So you should be on the lookout for it. If you are not following us on Twitter, you should at Rect Labs. For Rectvision, just Rectvision, that's our handle. You could just go there, follow us, and you'll be updated, with all the news and all the gist in our subsequent series. Thank you so much, everyone, for being a part of this. We hope to see you next time. Thank you so much. Bye.